This is live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour. DD India, India's voice to the world. I'm Sakal Bhattan. Coming up in the next hour. India is all set to launch its own safe and secure indigenous AI model at affordable cost. 18 citizen-centric applications to be part of this model. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman to table the economic survey on Friday. It represents a report card of the domestic economy. Release of Palestinian prisoners delayed after the chaotic release of 3 Israeli and 5 Thai hostages in Gaza after more than 15 months in captivity. And no survivors found so far after an army chopper collides over the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. with the plane carrying 64 flyers. President Donald Trump says collision should have been prevented. Well, as Hamas and Israel are all set to exchange more hostages and prisoners in the third swap of a fragile ceasefire, Agam Berger, a female soldier who is now 20 years, was captured when she was all of 19. She is one of the 3 Israeli hostages expected to be released alongside 5 Thai citizens. Doordarshan gets us more.
The much-awaited reunion. Meet the parents of 20-year-old Israeli hostage Agam Berger, all smiles and tears on their faces as they watch their daughter's release from Hamas captivity in Gaza on Thursday. Berger, wearing an olive green uniform, was led through a narrow alley between heavily damaged buildings and over piles of rubble in Jabalia in northern Gaza before being handed over to the Red Cross. Berger, who spent over 15 months in the Gaza Strip as a hostage, met female army officers as she left the Red Cross vehicle that delivered her from Hamas. A few hours later, a happy reunion was witnessed as Agam Berger met her parents at an Israeli army facility. This 20-year-old Agam was uncontrollable as she hugged her mother.
We are here. We are here and never leaving you ever. Forever. A mother's promise. A mother's promise.
Crowds gathered in Tel Aviv to celebrate the release of 3 Israeli hostages in Gaza. The crowd in so-called Hostages Square sang and danced while waving placards with photos of the hostages. They cheered as the handover of hostages to the Red Cross was announced. Amid all this, U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff visited the Hostages Square in Tel Aviv on Thursday as a hostage release and prisoner exchange took place under the ceasefire deal. Witkoff is in the region to oversee the implementation of the Gaza ceasefire. Altogether, Hamas handed over 3 Israeli and 5 Thai hostages in Gaza on Thursday, but Israel delayed the expected release of Palestinian prisoners after chaotic scenes at one of the handover points, where large crowds swarmed around the captives. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the sight of their handover amid the swarming crowds was shocking and threatened death to anyone hurting hostages. He urged mediators to ensure the scene would not be repeated. A total of 110 Palestinian prisoners were expected to be freed on Thursday as part of the phased agreement that halted fighting in Gaza. Dheeraj Das's report for DD India.
Well, a tragic major collision has left the United States in shock and grabbed international attention. An American Airlines regional jet carrying 64 passengers and a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter crashed into the icy waters of the Potomac River near Reagan Washington National Airport. So far, as per the latest reports, 28 bodies have been recovered and the search continues. More details follows.
Tragedy strikes the US following a devastating mid-air collision between an American Airlines regional passenger jet and a US Army Black Hawk helicopter, and this led to massive loss of life. The aircraft crashed into the frigid waters of the Potomac River near Reagan Washington National Airport, leaving little or no hope for survivors.
Despite all those efforts, we are now at a point where we are switching from a rescue operation to a recovery operation. At this point, we don't believe there are any survivors from this accident.
Meanwhile, rescue boats and divers are combing through the icy Potomac waters, conducting a painstaking recovery operation. So far, 28 bodies have been pulled from the river as the search for more continues.
The district office of the medical examiner has lead on reuniting these bodies and these people with their loved ones, and we will continue to work to find all the bodies and collect them and reunite them with their loved ones.
Earlier, US President Donald Trump issued a statement expressing his sorrow over the terrible accident. In a statement, he called the American Airlines regional jet and US Army Black Hawk helicopter crash a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented. The chief executive of American Airlines has also expressed deep grief over the incident, as the airline faces yet another tragedy involving one of its aircraft.
I'd like to express our deep sorrow about these events. This is a difficult day for all of us at American Airlines, and our efforts now are focused entirely on the needs of our passengers, crew members, partners, first responders, along with their families and loved ones.
As investigations into this latest crash unfold, questions remain about what led to this devastating collision. Authorities are now working to determine the cause while families of the victims grapple with this heartbreaking loss.
In a major development in United States immigration policy, President Donald Trump has signed the Laken-Riley Act, named after a Georgia college student tragically murdered last year. Trump administration also ended extended protections for Venezuelans, and facility at Guantanamo is also being prepared to serve as a transit or detention center for illegal migrants. Let's listen to this detailed report by Aarti Rana.
US President Donald Trump signed a bill on Wednesday ordering the pre-trial detention of undocumented migrants charged with theft and violent crime. Laken-Riley Act is named after a 22-year-old Laken Riley, a nursing student who was killed last year by an undocumented immigrant from Venezuela. This is Trump's first piece of legislation since he returned to power.
Under the law I'm signing today, the Department of Homeland Security will be required to detain all illegal aliens who have been arrested for theft, burglary, larceny, shoplifting, assaulting a police officer, murder, or any crime that results in death or serious injury. In addition, for the first time ever, this act gives state governments the ability to sue the federal government for immediate injunctive relief if any future administration ever again refuses to enforce the immigration laws of the United States, like happened before.
The law comes as the Trump administration ramps up efforts to target Venezuelan nationals living in the U.S. under temporary protected status, or TPS. U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem announced plans to reduce deportation protections for up to 600,000 Venezuelans. US President Donald Trump also unveiled a surprise plan to detain migrants in Guantanamo Bay. Trump has ordered construction of a detention camp to hold up to 30,000 people at the notorious military facility on the eastern tip of Cuba, used for holding terrorism suspects since the 9/11 attacks.
This is a temporary transit, which is already the mission of Naval Station Guantanamo Bay, where we can plus up thousands and tens of thousands if necessary to humanely move illegals out of our country where they do not belong back to the countries where they came from in proper process.
Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel criticized the proposal, calling it a violation of human rights. Amid the immigration crackdown, US military deportation flights have also intensified, with nearly 1,200 arrests being made per day. In response to this, some Maryland families are taking precautionary steps. Fearing deportation, they are seeking legal guardianship arrangements for their children.
It's reality. Is some families not had other members in the family had legal issue. For me, it's broken and sad, but it's inspiration. I took the decision, said, you know, had somebody help, I am ready for you. I'm mature and support.
As more families face uncertainty of deportation and with international leaders speaking out, the full impact of these decisions will unfold in the weeks ahead. Aarti Rana's report for DD India.
Well, Latin American leaders face a delicate balancing act as they navigate Trump's migrant crackdown, weighing confrontation risk against protecting citizens amid cancelled summit and rising tensions. Here's more.
Facing constant pressure from the Trump administration about deportation of its citizens from the US, the Latin American nations are walking a tightrope. They are wary to antagonize a powerful US while aware that domestic sentiments would expect them to present the picture of a strong and independent nation. Latin American leaders have cancelled a summit to discuss US President Donald Trump's migrant crackdown as the region weighs the risks of openly confronting the firebrand US president. The dispute began when Colombian President Gustavo Petro blocked US military aircraft carrying deported migrants, prompting Trump to impose tariffs and sanctions on Colombia. Within hours, the White House claimed Colombia had folded to its demands, but analysts say the situation is more nuanced. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum denied being afraid of invoking Trump's ire, saying our link with Latin America exists and will continue to exist. Honduran President Xiomara Castro, who had threatened to close US military bases, struck a less defiant tone, calling for dialogue and considering chartering flights to bring home migrants. Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva remained silent on the treatment of migrants arriving home in handcuffs during the journey, but his government summoned the top US envoy to explain the flagrant disregard for their rights. The cancelled summit highlights the region's struggle to respond to Trump's migrant policies, with leaders weighing the risks of confrontation against the need to protect their citizens. Bureau Report, DD India.
And still to come on DD India NewsHour, coming up next. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will unveil the economic survey on Friday. We will speak with an expert on the economic performance and what is expected in the survey this time. And the French army hands over its last base in Chad, ending military cooperation after the country cut ties in November.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Sakal Bhatt. Now let's move on to more news and updates. Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will be presenting the Union Budget 2025 in Indian Parliament on 1st of Feb. Now let's take a look at the budget expectations from various sectors. And as I just mentioned, Finance Minister of India, Nirmala Sitharaman, will be presenting the Union Budget on Saturday. But before she presents the budget in the Parliament, Minister Sitharaman will also unveil the Economic Survey of India on Friday, that is tomorrow. The Economic Survey is actually released every year before the budget, and it aims to highlight country's performance in terms of economy in the last financial year. Basically, it's a sort of a report card on the outcome of the steps announced in the previous budget. So in a way, the Economic Survey sets the tone for the forthcoming budget. I get you this detailed report explaining the significance of the survey and what all can it entail. An economic survey is a comprehensive report that offers an in-depth analysis and insights into India's economy, focusing on various key factors. The Economic Survey 2024-25 will be presented today prior to the Union Budget presentation. The survey will be presented on Friday. Economic survey covers following broader areas: detailed economic context, offering thorough assessment of the country's economic landscape to enable budgetary decisions on current financial situation on ground. Survey will identify key issues to analyze the economic trends and also various challenges. Economic survey allows better policy discussions as lawmakers, economists, industry stakeholders receive the economic data in advance, allowing for well-informed debates and discussions when the budgetary allocations are announced. Economic survey is divided into two sections. Part A reviews the overall economic performance, presenting data on fiscal trends and macroeconomic indicators, while Part B delves into socio-economic issues such as education, poverty and climate change, and also offers projections into GDP growth, inflation and trade. This year's comprehensive document, as is the norm, is prepared by the Economic Division of the Department of Economic Affairs, headed by India's Chief Economic Advisor, V. Anantha Nageswaran. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will table the document in Parliament on Saturday. The Economic Survey 24-25 is anticipated to emphasize job creation and boosting female workforce participation. It will examine economic indicators like agricultural and industrial production, employment, infrastructure, prices, imports, exports, money supply, and foreign exchange reserves. These insights will inform the government's fiscal strategy, guide reforms, and shape new economic policies. Essentially, the Economic Survey serves as a report card on India's economic health. Sakal Bhatt's report for DD India. We're very glad to be joined by Ms. Jyoti Vij. She's Director General, FICCI. Thank you very much, Ms. Vij, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast. For the fact that India is the fastest growing economy, I would like to ask you to begin with how do you expect the survey describing India's this mammoth growth story?
Oh, you talked about just a while back, I was listening to you,
Yes,
and the kind of measures that were announced in the last budget were obviously, to not only growth oriented, but also to be very inclusive, because when they talked about, skilling and employment, as well as for including women in the workforce. I think to that extent it was a very, very progressive one. It talked obviously about the capex, enhancing investments, etc. And this was all in the last budget also I said the same thing, that it's been continuation of what this government has been doing for last 10 years. And I think that is one of the greatest part of any such policy announcement could be continuation. And I think that is what we see this government doing year after year. With the fiscal prudence, they have also tried to lay a lot of emphasis on growth. So it's been a kind of a very tightrope, but a very stable walk so far. So I think that's what is commendable about the government. While keeping their eyes on, the macro aspects, they haven't lost the sight on the micro issues, and employment and inclusivity being one of them. I mean, you see a lot of emphasis on agriculture, on all other soft aspects as well of the economy. So I think that's the good part of the budget. Of course, there have been some issues like the inflation, etc., which could have had some impact on the demand. So demand's been a bit tepid, as we've seen in the first 2 quarters of the current year, and we do see that kind of moving up a little. So the growth rate may have come down slightly, but we still remain the largest economy, growing economy in the world. And I think credit goes a lot to not only the measures announced in the last budget, but most importantly, the way we managed the COVID times. I think COVID time, the government really worked very hard to lay a foundation for a very strong economy. And I think some of those results we see in the growth rates that we we are observing today, especially in such a volatile world that we are in.
Yes. And in the volatile world that we are living in, we're also in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution, and we are looking at a sort of artificial intelligence warfare. But all said and done, India is seen as a major player in almost all domains, if you look at it. What directions do you expect we will get to see in this survey tomorrow?
So I think, as I said, continuity would be very, very good, and I'm hoping that we will continue to lay focus, especially on the capex, because the private investments are still not there. I mean, we do see some green shoots coming in, but there's still some hand-holding is required. So we are at a stage, if we continue to provide a little more hand-holding, a little more patience from the government, it's going to really help a lot. Hence, increase in capex is something which we really look forward to. A lot of emphasis laid on employment last time, but we do hope that, and that's what government is actually talking about, is manufacturing. So manufacturing hopefully will see a lot more focus this time, whether it is in terms of incentives or whatever tax breaks, etc., is what they intend to provide to focus areas, because what we're talking about is self-reliant economy. So we're not just talking about making a few products and assembling a few products, but we need to have the ecosystem of manufacturing also hubbed here. So I think we see a lot of incentives being given for the backward integration, particularly in areas like electronics, where we've done very well, I think, in terms of even exporting out. But these are the final products. We also need to create the ecosystem for value-added products.
Right.
Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, I'm just interrupting you here because I wanted your thought. There's so much to talk, of course, tomorrow and day after. Ma'am, there's also this India's huge contribution to the economy also is coming from the unorganized sector. Do you think there's a need for more formalization of the economy, or how do you expect market forces to play their part? Will this also figure in this survey, the unorganized sector and its role?
I think GST onwards, formalization has happened, I think, in a very organic way. And we see that in the GST numbers also. I think the tax collections kind of show that the economy has started to formalize a lot. But of course, I mean, this is a continuing process, and the budget, of course, can bring in, if they try to rationalize some of the tax structures. See, formalization is more about people not understanding the unknown fear. And how do we address that unknown fear is, I think, what we could probably try and understand and then address.
All right, we'll leave it there. But such a pleasure talking to you, Director General FICCI, Ms. Vish. Thank you. It was such a pleasure having you on the show. And staying with the budget expectations, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, who has so far presented a total of 7 straight budgets under the Modi government, including an interim one in February 2024, is all set to table her 8th consecutive budget on 1st of February, that is Saturday. In 2020, Minister Sitharaman created a unique record for delivering the longest budget speech as Union Finance Minister in Parliament. And on Saturday, Minister Sitharaman will once again script history for presenting her 8th consecutive Union budget. Tripri Tripathi of DD India gets us more.
Nirmala Sitharaman is set to make history. She will become the first women finance minister to present 8 consecutive union budgets, each shaping India's economic landscape. From the traditional briefcase to the iconic Bahi Khata and now a paperless budget using a Made in India tablet, budget presentations have evolved significantly under her tenure. In 2019, she introduced the Bahi Khata, a symbol of India's heritage. By 2021, she led the digital revolution with a fully paperless budget, aligning with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision of Digital India. Over the years, the union budget has consistently focused on women-led development, ensuring increased funding for women's empowerment and welfare. In the year 2024, 3.3 lakh crore rupees were allocated for women's welfare, boosting Mudra loan limits from 10 lakh to 20 lakh rupees for women entrepreneurs. In the year 2023, a 267 crore rupees increase for the Women and Child Development Ministry was seen, prioritizing Saksham Anganwadi and Poshan 2.0. In the year 2021, a revamp of welfare schemes with Mission Shakti, Mission Vatsalya and Poshan 2.0 was seen. In the year 2021, the highest ever allocation for Saksham Anganwadi and Mission Poshan 2.0 was witnessed. In the year 2020, a strong push for education and nutrition with 3,700 crore rupees was allocated for the National Nutrition Mission and 35,600 crore rupees for nutrition-related programs. Each budget under Nirmala Sitharaman has carried a distinct vision. Let's take a quick recap. In the year 2024, a focus on employment, skilling, MSMEs and the middle class with 9 key priorities shaping economic policies was seen. In the year 2023, the Amrit Kal budget targeting youth, job creation and economic growth with a 45 trillion rupees spending plan and tax relief for the individuals was witnessed. In the year 2022, a push for green energy and digital economy, including the launch of India's digital rupee and the 30% tax on cryptocurrency income was witnessed. In the year 2021, a post-pandemic recovery plan with major investments in healthcare and infrastructure was seen. In 2020, a pandemic-hit economy saw a budget focusing on healthcare, agriculture and economic revival. With expectations running high, all eyes are now on Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman's upcoming budget. What new policies will shape India's economic future? Tripti Tripaঠি's report for DD India.
And the Union Budget 2025 to be presented on Saturday in India's Parliament has also sparked significant anticipation, particularly amongst young students. They are voicing their expectations for a budget that addresses both their immediate needs and long-term aspirations. Take a look.
We need is more allocation of funds for clean energy, for afforestation and for sustainable and renewable energy. So doing this would also increase the green jobs sector for the youth of our country. So in my opinion, actually saving allocations for the environmental protection as well as sustainable development is something we need extremely urgently at this state in the country.
My expectations from this year's soon to be announced 2025 budget will be strictly focusing on the digitization of our education. Obviously, right now the introduction of DeepSeek AI from China has taken the world by storm. So my expectation was that will there be some form of the allocation of funds in the soon to be announced budget 2025 for a homegrown AI system which will help our youth, help them in their assignments.
There should be a subsidized income tax slab rate for all of the stationery that a student buys. I know we all have switched to digital platforms now, but even then there are a lot of people who have a lot of skills, and supposedly in my case I would want to buy an iPad or a creative iPad for that matter with a pen. But in terms when we go for buying, there are really high rates. Even after putting it on a student subsidized cost, there are still a lot of, I think, hesitations even for parents, so that a student could go for that.
My expectations from the budget 2025 are primarily focused on the income tax cuts, because leading firms such as Citi have stated that the income tax cuts are going to help out middle earners, primarily the ones making around 10 to 20 lakhs, because it will give them more disposable income. When people pay less tax, they're going to have more income to spend, and this will further promote production and job creation as well.
So from this 2025 budget, I have two expectations. First is, I would like there to be initiatives to increase spending among the middle and the working classes through reforming the tax slabs in the middle classes and through increased social investment in the working classes.
Now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. We begin with the developments in Chad, where the French army has handed over its last base in Chad in a military ceremony in the capital, Djamena. The general staffs of both countries announced on Thursday. The Central African country in late November abruptly ended military cooperation with its colonial ruler, France. 5-day-long 8th Nepal Chamber Expo 2025, organized by the Nepal Chamber of Commerce, kicked off in Birikutumandap in Kathmandu Valley on Thursday. In the inaugural session, Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli urged businesspersons and industrialists to boost exports to the neighboring countries. Rock and dust samples retrieved from NASA from the asteroid Bennu has exhibited some of the chemical building blocks of life. NASA's robotic OSIRIS-REx spacecraft in 2020 collected the samples from the near-Earth asteroid, a rocky remnant of a larger celestial body that had formed near the dawn of the solar system roughly 4.5 billion years ago. And still to come on DD India NewsHour. Coming up next, India is all set to launch an affordable, secure artificial intelligence model with 18 citizen-centric applications. We'll speak with special experts joining us on India's AI mission.
Timeless, boundless, and infinite. The essence of faith, the soul of Sanatan culture, from the sacred confluence of Prayag, where divinity descends to earth. Witness the grandeur, the devotion, the magic, world's largest cultural and spiritual gathering, with over 450 million devotees expected to attend. Mahakumbh, India's greatest festival of faith. Exclusively on DD India.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Sakal Bhatt. Well, India will soon have its foundational models in a few months with the best algorithmic efficiency and enhanced quality of data sets. India's Minister of Electronics and IT, Ashnavi Vaishnav, announced that the government has decided to build a domestic large language model of its own as part of rupees 10,370 crore India AI mission. Minister Vaishnav also announced the establishment of an AI Safety Institute. Well, India AI mission is being implemented through 7 pillars. We have a detailed report which explains this.
India is all set to take a major leap in artificial intelligence by developing its own large language model, LLM. The country's AI model is currently under development with 6 major developers working on it. The government expects the first versions to be ready within 10 months.
We are calling for proposals to develop our own foundational model where the Indian context, the Indian languages, the culture of our country, where the biases can be removed, where the data set is basically for our country, of our country, for our citizens. That process will start today.
So let's understand India's AI model. Backed by high-end common computing facility, the India AI mission is now closer to customizing indigenous AI solutions for the Indian context using Indian languages. 18 citizen-centric applications pertaining to agriculture sector, learning disability and climate change to be part of this AI model. The AI model is beginning with the computation facility of roughly 10,000 GPUs. Soon, the remaining 8,693 GPUs will be added. Users to get it for less than 100 rupees per GPU after subsidizing 40% of the cost, compared to global models costing $2.5 to $3 per hour usage. The attractive half-yearly and annual plans will further make it more affordable. It is about 9 times of what open source model DeepSeek has and about 2/3 of what ChatGPT has. Safety and ethical deployment of AI model remains top priority. India is establishing an AI Safety Institute adopting a techno-legal approach. AI safety through real-time detection tools, deepfake mitigation, and robust AI risk management strategies.
We have now 15,000 high-end GPUs. The ChatGPT version 4 was trained on about 25,000 GPUs. So this gives us a huge compute facility, very robust compute facility, something which will really give the boost to our ecosystem, to our startups, to our researchers, to our academia for creating AI applications, models, distillation processes, training processes, and creating new algorithms.
China's DeepSeek recently rolled out a free AI assistant that it says uses lower cost chips and less data.
What DeepSeek has done is kind of like contributing to the world's public good. But on the other hand, there is always kind of like a hidden worry with open source models, because potentially they could fall into the hands of bad actors.
Stanford ranks India among the top nations in AI education, with 240 universities offering AI courses and 100 universities equipped with 5G labs. With inputs from Amritpal Singh, Fuzail Ahmed reports for DD India.
Tanmoy Chakrabarti, Associate Professor, Department of Electrical Engineering and School of Artificial Intelligence from IIT Delhi, joining us. And very glad to also have Professor M.K. Datta. He is Dean with Amity Center for Artificial Intelligence from Noida. Distinguished panel of artificial intelligence. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. Professor Tanmay, I would like to start with you with this sort of robust and high-end common computing facility in place. India seems to be all set to launch its own safe and secure, quote unquote, made in India indigenous AI model. And we are also pitching a lot on the affordable cost that it's going to incur. To begin with, run us through the salient features of AI mission. And basically, if you could just break it further for the common man to understand. What are we looking at?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks very much for inviting me. I think I'm super excited today to
I can see that.
to hear the news. I mean, I've been waiting for last 1 year to hear this news. So I think this is really important for a country like India, which contributes a lot to the global AI, right? In terms of data set, in terms of manpower, right? I mean, the kind of staff that we have, who are trained in AI business. So I think this is a really welcome initiative, and being a hardcore large language model researcher, generative AI researcher, I would love to be a part of this initiative. Mm-hmm. So, first of all, if you look at the announcements, right? I think the major announcement, of course, the GPUs that are being procured for this specific mission, and the goal to encompass all 22 languages along with dialects. Right. Remember, this is going to be the major challenge for India-centric large language model to encompass such a diverse language groups, dialects, and such a huge cultural diversity. If you look at, let's say, models like ChatGPT or even DeepSeek, right? DeepSeek has a lot of Chinese cultural bias, whereas models like ChatGPT has bias towards the Western country. I would really like to develop, I would like India to develop a model which would be purely India-centric, which will capture diversity, languages, and that would help people like farmers, like laborers who don't have really access to smart devices, right?
Okay.
So I think this is really exciting, and I also feel that the area where India has expertise is essentially to develop economical models.
Okay.
Models with lower budget, models with lower resources, right? We have seen, our famous Chandrayaan and Mangalyaan mission, right? The amount of budget that was required for those missions. And I specifically work in designing smaller and smaller language models. And I feel that this is something that India should think of, right? Making them cheaper, and make a set, kind of a goal set for other countries to see that, even with a lower budget of what DeepSeek essentially used to build their model, even lower than that, we should be able to, we should be able to build our model.
Let Professor Datta elaborate on this affordability angle as compared to global models, Professor Datta, which are costing around $2.5 to $3 per hour usage. India's AI model is expected to cost less than 100 rupees per hour, if I'm not wrong. So we're looking at more cost effective and also 40% government subsidy. Explain this to us.
Okay, so first of all, great to have you. I mean, I'm very excited to be in this panel. Interestingly, you see the announcement that has come up today from our Honorable Minister is also, as my panelists say, that I was also waiting for that for long. You see, when I talk about AI, there are 3 or 4 important verticals. 2 of them, which are major, are, you see, data computing, compute facility, and structured data. Of course, our country has also made some, structured data mission in which we are working. So today, the announcement has come up from the government that at such a low cost, I think 100 rupees, less than 100 rupees, what is the commitment made? That actually leverages, that actually empowers the younger people, the startups, and the futuristic. You see, today I'm a university professor, so I deal with young minds every day. These students, our young students, they come with super brilliant ideas. Now, to convert that ideas into workable models, Gen AI space requires a lot of training, training compute cost. So today's announcement must be, have spread a joy of happiness across the country, especially among the youth, because you see, the European and the US and the other companies who are charging, like, let's say, some $5 per hour, or even. So our younger students are deprived of it. See, I will not exaggerate, but the DeepSeek model, which works on reinforcement learning, which is making a lot of noise in the current times. You see, I saw papers from Indians who had, they had proposed the same concept maybe 1 year from now or maybe 1.5 years back. But most they did not have that much of compute to do that. And this announcement, and if it realizes, you will see many more DeepSeeks and other kind of things that comes out originally from India with Indianized versions, and that's what is super exciting for me.
Okay, yes, excitement is understandable, but if you could also, Professor Tanmay, foundational models in the Indian context. We heard Minister Vaishnav, we're looking at Indian languages, and this is going to be a very own Indian thing. But broadly speaking, how is this going to really aid researchers, students, people at large for its low cost, fast computing and prompt results orientation?
Yeah, I mean, it will have impact on, across all the societies. Yeah, education, healthcare, agriculture, right, pharmaceutical, other places. For example, if you take education, for example, right, you can use foundational models to build your own technology. Let's say, for example, you want to develop a course with interactive platform where you ask your students to first interact with the foundational model to understand the prerequisites for the course, and then you basically come in and teach the advanced part, right? Let's say you can also use, let's say, these foundational models for as I mentioned earlier, right? Let's say for agricultural purposes, farmers, right? Farmers, they actually don't know all these technologies, but think of a farmer having a telephone and an app which will speak in his or her language, right? And he essentially inquires and immediately get responses. Again, the contextually Indian context, right? That would be great. Now think of again rural places where I always think of people in the rural places who don't have access to such a high-end technologies, right? I think if we build such kind of technologies, I mean, again, remember one thing. All of us are excited, but we AI researchers in India, we actually have a lot of responsibilities.
Absolutely.
Right? Lot of responsibilities.
They say with power comes responsibility. Yes, exactly. And with this sort of thing that's going to empower many of us and each one of us. Their DeepSeek on Indian servers after security protocol checks, the whole security angle to it. Professor Datta, your take on it, and then Tanmay can also respond to that very quickly.
I mean, you see the security threats that's coming up with the AI pipeline, right? there are a lot of things, adversarial attacks, single point attack. There's so many things that have come up. I mean, you can't ignore. So that ethics in AI, in our university in Amity Center for Artificial Intelligence, we have floated a course on ethics on AI. So that's how the young people has to understand. Unless and until we maintain the ethics and ensure that there is adequate security and protection of personal privacy, etc. I mean, we definitely need that. And also, I mean, 1 year back when GPAI under our Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji, there was a lot of discussion among 22 countries that we are going ahead with that. And I'm sure that security issues, a lot of things have come up in the pipeline. Like, if I can, let's say, I get hold of a chatbot of a company and I start making it abuse others.
Yeah.
So this kind of security, practical security remains. But then at the same time, when you march ahead in this wonderful journey of artificial intelligence, we look forward to sustainable solutions and people joining hands in making things.
Okay. Professor Tonma, your take? Protocol? Security?
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly I wanted to say in my last comment that when I said responsibility, I think it is very important that whenever we launch such a technology, people will start misusing it. And this is human nature, right? In the past also, we have seen many such foundational models developed by Facebook and other big companies. Those got shut down because of this misuse, right? We should be super careful about how we make this thing robust, how the model should be robust. We should make this thing so robust that so there's a terminology in foundational models called jailbreaking, right?
Okay.
We will try to jailbreak the model so that the model will start producing abusive content, misinformation, hate speech, deepfake, right? Whatnot, right? So the guardrail and the term is called guardrail. So you essentially think of proper guardrail so that the jailbreak and whatever jailbreak technologies that people should definitely apply for sure. The model should be able to tolerate, right, and respond in an appropriate way. I mean, if you look at DeepSeek, I think this is a super model in terms of the jailbreaking because it doesn't respond to any wrong kind of prompt that you write, right? So I think we should also be careful about this. It's very
All right.
important.
So one thing is very loud and clear. Like it's like a writing on the wall that India is actually moving on in a mission mode in the artificial intelligence mission that we have just launched today formally. Thank you very much, both of you, Tanmay Chakrabarti and Professor M.K. Datta, for explaining this in detail in a very short span of time. Thank you. And still to come on DD India NewsHour. This is what we have for you on the other side of a very short breather. Eurozone growth stalls in Q4 with France and Germany dragging down the GDP. And in news from National Games underway in India's Uttarakhand, we'll get you more.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Sakal Bhatt. Let's move on to the latest on the Congo, where the escalating conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which was fueled by the M23 armed group's week-long advance, has drawn urgent calls for crisis talks and sparked international condemnation. With the Southern African Development Community all set to hold a special summit and French Foreign Minister Noel Barrett visiting to discuss the situation, tensions continue to escalate. Rabindra Chauhan of DD India gets us this report.
The weeks-long march of the M23 armed group has prompted calls for crisis talks, as well as rising international criticism and warnings of a looming humanitarian crisis in Democratic Republic of Congo. President Felix Tshisekedi stated that his military is mounting a vigorous response and condemned the international community's inaction amid the escalating conflict. After a rapid advance by M23 fighters in the region, the Southern African Development Community announced it will hold a special summit on the crisis. Meanwhile, French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot is visiting the Democratic Republic of Congo to discuss the situation, and leaders of the East African Community bloc have met virtually to discuss the escalating conflict in DRC. Nearly 300 foreign mercenaries have been hired by DRC to counter-offensive by M23 rebels have surrendered on Wednesday. Congo has accused Rwanda of backing the M23 insurgents, a group with ties to Rwanda, while Rwanda justifies past military interventions in Congo as efforts to combat militia groups. DR Congo and UN reports accuse Rwanda of exploiting the conflict to loot valuable minerals like gold and coltan. The M23 has seized key mining areas, and a December UN report revealed that 120 tons of coltan are being sent to Rwanda every month. Rwanda's mineral exports have risen sharply, but Rwanda denies these allegations. Let's understand what is happening in Goma. After a rapid advance in the region, fighters from the M23 rebel group have taken control of most of Goma. Goma is a major city of more than 1 million people in the east of DR Congo. The rebels say they control the city, although there are still few areas of resistance. Now, who are the M23? M23 are led by ethnic Tutsi. They say they took up arms to protect the rights of minority group. M23 deals to end the fighting have not been respected. After its creation in 2012, the M23 rapidly gained territory and seized Goma. It was forced to withdraw from Goma after international criticism. They suffered a series of heavy defeats. They suffered a series of heavy defeats by Congolese army along with UN force that saw it expelled from the country. M23 fighters agreed to be integrated into the army in return for promises that Tutsi would be protected. It was in 2021 the group took up arms again, saying the promises had been broken. Rwanda has a history of military intervention in Congo. DRC and several UN reports accuse Rwanda of using the ongoing conflict to lose Congolese minerals. Rwanda denies exploiting DRC's resources. The ongoing conflict in eastern DR Congo is fueled by its rich natural resources such as cobalt, uranium, and copper. While US companies once controlled the mining industry, Chinese firms with government ties now dominate the sector. The Congolese army often protects Chinese mining assets, giving China an economic advantage, particularly in energy and technology. China is also involved in supplying weapons to both the Congolese government and Uganda. Bureau Report, TT India.
In other news, the European Central Bank made a fresh interest rate cut on Thursday as inflation eases and the Eurozone economy flatlines with a nervous eye on US President Donald Trump's protectionist agenda. The central bank cut its benchmark deposit rate by a further quarter point to 2.75% on Thursday. That is its fifth reduction since June last year and a move widely expected by observers.
The Governing Council today decided to lower the three key ECB interest rates by 25 basis points. In particular, the decision to lower the deposit facility rate, the rate through which we steer the monetary policy stance, is based on our updated assessment of the inflation outlook, the dynamics of underlying inflation, and the strength of monetary policy transmission.
Economic growth in the Eurozone slowed to a halt in the fourth quarter, dragged by contractions in major economies, France and Germany, according to the official data showing on Thursday. According to preliminary data, Eurozone gross domestic product GDP remained unchanged from the previous quarter, a sharp slowdown from 0.4% growth recorded in the third quarter and a below 0.1% expansion forecast by analysts. The European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde said that the Eurozone economy will struggle to get back on its feet in the new year after stagnating at the end of 2024. January 30th marks the death anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation, and we remember his life, his unparalleled legacy, and his unshakable commitment to truth and non-violence. Gandhi's principles have not only shaped modern India, but continue to inspire movements across the globe as well. Take a look at this report that gives you a glimpse into the life and legacy and times of Mahatma Gandhi.
Born on 2nd October 1869 in Porbandar, Gujarat, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi went on to become the foremost leader of India's struggle for independence. Trained as a lawyer in London, he began his activism in South Africa. where he fought against the racial discrimination. It was here that Gandhi developed the concept of satyagraha, a method of non-violent resistance that would later define his leadership in India's freedom movement. Returning to India in 1915, Gandhi's vision of non-violent resistance ignited a national movement. From the non-cooperation movement to the civil disobedience movement, Gandhi mobilized millions in India to challenge the British colonial rule through peaceful protest. His leadership during the Salt March of 1930 became a global symbol of resistance against justice. Known as the Mahatma or the Great Soul, Gandhi's approach was deeply rooted in the principles of simplicity, truth, and equality. His efforts were not limited to political freedom. Gandhi advocated for economic self-reliance, religious tolerance, and the abolition of untouchability. His fasts became powerful tools to foster social harmony and bridge divisions between communities. Despite his peaceful approach, the path was far from easy. Gandhi faced imprisonment multiple times, survived assassination attempts, and endured growing political challenges. Yet, he remained resolute in his commitment to non-violence until his tragic assassination on January the 30th in 1948, just months after India gained independence. Today, Gandhi's legacy lives on. His philosophy of non-violence and civil resistance has inspired movements worldwide. From the American civil rights movement led by Martin Luther King Jr. to the anti-apartheid struggle in South Africa under Nelson Mandela, the world continues to recognize him as a symbol of peace and a beacon of moral courage. Bureau Report, DD India.
The 77th anniversary of the martyrdom of Mahatma Gandhi was observed at Noakhali Gandhi Ashram in Bangladesh also on Thursday, on 30th of January. To pay homage to Mahatma Gandhi, the Gandhi Ashram Trust, Noakhali organized a discussion on the relevance of Mahatma Gandhi in the contemporary world at the ashram. Large number of community leaders, students, civil society participated in the program. At Jabalpur Gandhi Ashram in North Bangladesh, floral tributes were also paid on the portrait of Mahatma Gandhi. Veteran Gandhian Noor Jahan Begum was the chief guest on the occasion. Well, you're watching DD India NewsHour. It's time for a quick sports news. We begin with badminton. Former world number 1 Kidambi Srikanth has advanced to the quarterfinals of the men's singles event at Thailand Masters Badminton Tournament after a win in Puthuan on Thursday. Indian shuttler beat Jason Guruwan 21-19, 21-15 in their round of 16 match. In another men's singles match, Shankar Subramanian produced a valiant fight back to defeat Indonesia's Chico Oradivi Wardoyo 9-21, 21-10, 21-17. Subramanian lost the first game but rallied to win the second and take the match into the decider. And finally, National Games. The weightlifting action at the 38th National Games kicked off in a spectacular style on Thursday, with Chhattisgarh emerging as a force to be reckoned with. The state claimed 2 gold medals, but it was Maharashtra that led to the overall tally with 6 medals, including gold, silver and 4 bronze medals. While Kerala and Services Sports Control Board have bagged 1 gold each. In a nail-biting contest, Vijay Kumar of Chhattisgarh matched national clean and jerk record and secured gold. Also, Anish Banwala of Haryana claimed gold in the men's 25-meter rapid-fire pistol event at National Games in India's hilly state of Uttarakhand, while Gurpreet Singh of Services Sports Control Board bagged silver medal with 28 hits. Vijay Veer Sidhu of Punjab finished third with 26 hits. And in 10 meters air rifle women final, Narmada Nithun Raju of Tamil Nadu bagged gold medal. She shot a total of 254.4, which was just 0.1 short of the world record score, while Arya Rajesh Bose of Maharashtra won silver medal and Ramita Jindal of Haryana claimed bronze medal. That's all in this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those in the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Sakal Bhatt, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.